Puma wasn't a brand that was really known for their running shoes. In fact, they kind of stayed away from running altogether until a few years ago when they launched their first official line. And ever since that first launch, it seems that every time Puma puts out a new shoe, the running community seems to love it. So what's the secret behind their shoes? Let's break down the Velocity Nitro 3. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Now today we're going to be talking about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around throughout this review, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate if you come back when you get a sec, watch the full video, as I put a lot of time and effort into making these as comprehensive as possible for each and every one of you. And if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. And leave a comment below. Let me know what I can be doing better to make these videos an even better experience for you. Now starting off, let's talk about some quick disclaimers and disclosures, which are I did receive this shoe for the purpose of review directly from Puma. However, like any of my reviews, I am not paid. No one gets to watch the videos beforehand. They don't give me a talk track, anything like that. All thoughts are entirely my own. With that out of the way, let's jump into the intended use of the shoe. The Velocity Nitro 3 is what I like to call an up-tempo daily trainer or a lightweight daily trainer. This category shoe is built to be very versatile, so it can be used on daily standard runs, you can take it on easy runs, you can even use it for some pickups, some lighter workouts, things along those lines. As such, that's how we're going to be evaluating the shoe today. From a price standpoint, the shoe comes in at $135, which is incredibly reasonable for this type of shoe, especially because, in my opinion, this is the most versatile category of shoe. For reference, most shoes in this category cost $140 at least and up to $150, so this is, off the top of my head, the cheapest in this range. Now from a specs perspective, this shoe comes in at 9.5 ounces or 269 grams in a men's size 9. So it is, I would say, actually on the slightly heavier side for a lightweight or up-tempo daily trainer, and we'll break down if that weight really affects the shoe or not. From a stack standpoint, we have 36 in the heel, 26 in the forefoot for a 10mm heel-to-toe drop. So this is a high drop shoe, which tends to bias forefoot strikers. And again, we'll talk about the midsole and how that ride feels and if that is the case with this shoe. Moving to the fit, the shoe fits true to size lengthwise. I felt like the length was perfect. So as far as sizing up or down to the length, I would go with your normal size. That being said, this is a narrow fitting shoe, so you may want to consider half sizing up if you want a little bit of extra room. I'm not 100% sure if the shoe comes in wide options, but if you are a wide footed runner, probably not the shoe for you. I do feel like the toe box is fairly average overall, but again, because of that midfoot being just so snug, I don't know that that's really going to fix it for those wide footed runners. Now moving to the upper, it is an engineered mesh throughout the entire shoe with some TPU, I believe, or kind of plastic overlays throughout the shoe. Also has what's called power tape in the medial side, which I believe just gives some additional lockdown in that midfoot area. The tongue is fully gusseted, and so you really get a lot of elements that keep your foot locked in place. And I did find that the shoe has phenomenal lockdown overall. I was not slipping or sliding around in the shoe, regardless of the pace that I was running. The tongue is just a lightly padded tongue, pretty minimal there overall, which is really nice. It just gives you enough protection that you don't have any lace bite in the shoe. And I did find the shoe to be breathable overall, which was really, really nice, as I like to run in this shoe on a little bit faster paces where the feet may heat up a little bit more, and I did not have any temperature control issues in this shoe whatsoever. Now the upper does have a little bit of stretch, so your foot doesn't feel completely confined, but for the most part it is structured, so you're not gonna have like that booty construction or that kind of mesh construction where you feel like you're gonna pop out of the shoe. It has that double layer engineered mesh, which keeps you locked in place. The heel cup is also really, really nice. You have some good padding there. Some may consider it to be a little bit more than necessary, but I think it's kind of the right amount for a shoe that is supposed to be able to do a little bit of everything. Sometimes you want a little extra comfort, and you have a slight flare there to give you, again, less Achilles discomfort or less rubbing on the Achilles there, and I didn't experience any whatsoever. Now moving on to the midsole, you have what is called a nitro foam, but as you kind of play with the shoe, you can kind of see that there are two different foams here. You have a top layer of a more responsive foam and then a bottom layer of a slightly firmer, a little bit more durable foam. Now I found that this foam was fairly firm underfoot, and so that is something to consider if you're not someone who likes a firm foam and you prefer to have something with a little bit more squish. This may not be a good option. But for me, I found that this foam was responsive enough that I felt really, really light on foot, despite it being slightly heavier for an up-tempo trainer or a lightweight trainer. I found that the shoe doesn't run as if it's at that 269 grams or 9.5 ounce range. I do think the majority of runners, though, are going to feel that it's probably overly firm for easy runs. That wasn't the case for me, though. I actually like something with a little bit more pop, even on my easy days, as it helps me feel a little bit more efficient. Speaking of efficiency, with that 10mm heel-to-toe drop, though, this shoe does like to be on its toes. So if you are a heel striker, it may not be the right shoe for you as well. It has that 10mm drop, so if you are heel striking, it's a long way down. But if you are a forefoot and midfoot striker, you're gonna feel quite at home in the shoe, but it does have that overall aggressive geometry. One more thing about the midsole is I do believe that it softens up over time. So I have just over 30 miles in this pair of shoes, and I did feel like finally on this last run, it didn't feel quite as firm as it had before. And you can see that even though it is a firmer foam, the foam is quite flexible. You don't get super, super rigid. So there you go. Last thing is I did feel like the shoe was a little bit unstable, and I think that that probably is because the shoe runs a little bit narrow. And so I do think if you widened that out a little bit, which is not necessarily the intended use of this shoe to be super stable, but if you did, then you probably would be fine from a stability perspective, because I don't think that's coming from the foam. I think that's coming from the 10mm drop paired with an overall narrow fitting shoe. Now, outsoles don't often get a lot of love, but I think that the Puma Grip outsole is pretty awesome. There's little to no wear and tear on this shoe through 30 miles, running outside, running on the treadmill, running a little bit everywhere. And what I found is when I was running on slicker, wet roads, that I was really locked in with this grip. The traction pattern has just a lot of bite, and so you're really, really secure, and you don't have to stress at all as far as underfoot security goes. And I think that that is going to be really, really nice for people who live in maybe slightly wetter or colder areas. Now, it is a fairly thick outsole though, and with this shoe, I know I said that I don't really feel the weight of the shoe when I run, and I stand by that statement, but I wonder if the shoe would even have more magic if the shoe got a little bit lighter, as there are some shoes in this category that are below the 8-ounce range. So I think that that outsole is fairly thick. I do think that you could shave it down a little bit, but maintain the traction pattern and still get the same grip and same, just you wouldn't really lose any like integrity in the shoe. And I do wonder as well if you had a slightly thinner outsole, if that would create a softer overall experience underfoot for those who don't like the firmer foams. Especially when you get these larger pieces of outsole right here, it just prevents some of the flexibility and does add a little bit of rigidity into a foam or on a shoe. So just something to think about, but overall, I think that the shoe accomplishes what it set out to do. Now, as far as who's this shoe for, obviously with a slightly slimmer profile, an aggressive drop of 10mm, and a slightly firmer foam, I think that this is the type of shoe for the runners who are looking for a little bit more efficiency and like to go a little bit faster, maybe speed up even on their easy runs. The shoe is probably going to be a little bit too firm for the majority of runners for their easy runs, but if you're looking for a really like a budget shoe that can go fast, where you're maybe trying to get a workout shoe without a plate, this is a really good potential option at $135. And I believe I saw it on some websites for even, you know, closing in that $100 range, as an update will be releasing to the shoe in 2025. For some newer runners who are potentially forefoot strikers, this could be a really good one rotation or one do it all style shoe. And again, I really, really love what Puma did with the price point. I think that there isn't another shoe for that cheap that provides the same value that this shoe gives on the market off the top of my head. So really, but it doesn't feel like an entry level or budget running shoe. So absolutely love kind of the direction that Puma went with this. Now I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today with this review, and I'm going to be splitting off the comparisons in a separate video. So if you're interested in seeing some shoes that I would compare the Velocity Nitro 3 then stay tuned as that video will be dropping later this week. Just some final thoughts on the shoe overall. Again, I think Puma did a really good job. The shoe is a little bit narrow, so I would like to see that get a little bit wider, and a 10mm drop does feel pretty aggressive, but at $135, like I said, the value just can't be beat, as this is going to be a very versatile option for those who don't mind a slightly firmer foam and are looking for something that pops off the ground a little bit more. So as far as my first review for a Puma shoe, I give the Velocity Nitro 3 2 big toes up. I'm looking forward to getting more miles and more Puma shoes over the course of the next year. If you're still here, I sure appreciate it. Please leave me a like and a comment below. Tell me what I can be doing better as a reviewer, or go ahead and ask any questions that you may have on the Velocity Nitro 3. And as always, I'll leave you guys with a question, which is, do you actually consider the heel to toe drop when looking at and buying a new running shoe? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everybody.